Hello everyone, it's Chris here, and I'm going to run through the progress that I've made on my game Expand for this week. So this week I worked on several things, not as many as I was hoping to because I had several other commitments. I have exams next week, a few assignments to get in, and I had a whole bunch of things to work on for the indie games room, which I'll be talking about in a blog post sometime in the near future. But for this week, I worked on several things. I firstly changed the world coordinates. A friend of mine alerted me to the fact that the world was not actually circular, and it now is. It was actually egg shaped before, so horizontally it was sort of squished in. It wasn't very obvious for me, at least, to pick it up, but he noticed it, and I've now changed the coordinate system. And because I was going to change the coordinate system, I decided to drastically shrink the world as well. So with a smaller world, Box 2D can process things faster um, and more realistically in some ways. It really depends. If you make the world too big, it can be really slow. In this case, the world is um, like 10 by 6 or something like that in Box 2D coordinates. So it's much smaller. I also worked on this feature here where I can pause the world and still move around, yet the world will stay paused. I worked on a series of test scripts, and I worked on these test scripts because I was refactoring the code used to use for expanding bodies. And when doing this, I came to a quick sort of realization, and that was when I'll show you in a second. If I was expanding the starting or the ending angle, I was actually reallocating all the trapeziums that existed inside of the sector, and that's quite wasteful. So now I only update the newly added one, or the one at the very end. So that was a sort of a nice performance boost that I got there. And I also worked, part of the reason why I refactored that code, just because I wanted to properly look through it again, was that I needed to um, stop updating all the sectors as frequently, because that was having a strain on the physics system. Well, not a strong strain. The game was still playable. It was fine. It's just later on down the track, I want to have a lot of things on screen, and when I do that, I want them to be for the game to run pretty well, and not be over demanding for such a simple game. So I worked on pruning out a whole bunch of updating of the sectors that weren't necessary. So as you can see here, these bodies aren't updating, but when I get close, they'll update lovely. At the moment, this system has a few flaws. So if I go to, I think it's 2, whoops, no, death menu. Sorry, 3. Yep. You'll see here that as I come up to this side, it's not. If I go sort of beyond that, I can go through these objects, yet not through others. It's a bit broken when I modify the starting and ending angles. I have a suspicion as to why that is, but yeah, it's just something I have to touch up. Also, I have to fix the case where the animation is not continually looping, and just to just to make sure all the bodies exist in the world when the animation is finished. So if this was to move out and then to stop, I need to make sure in the last step of that animation updating that it is all the bodies have been added properly. I had a few other small touch-ups during the week, but they're really not too important. So that's everything for this week. Next week I'm going to work on masking the text. I spent a bit of time this week thinking about how I would mask space, and the result is really, really complicated and really makes this code, which isn't, it's quite readable and it's fine, it's not too complicated, but it really adds to the complexity of that code, and I don't want to add too much complexity there. So instead I'm going to implement the masking of space in scripts. So that'll probably take a little bit more time, be a little bit more annoying, but at least it won't break any of my existing code, and the extra work will probably it'll probably be beneficial to me in the end because it'll be simpler to implement it in scripting, because I'm only implementing for certain cases, and so I can assume certain properties. Whereas if I were to implement this in my main base of code, I would have to make a lot of generalizations. Besides that, I also need to touch up the player movement speed because I've changed the way the coordinate system works. So now I have to, sorry, the representation of the coordinate system and the size used, and so now the player moves at different speeds. And also I need to get the sort of bit more traction, friction going to have a sort of a tighter feel. And then after that, that should be everything that I need. So that'll leave me with about a month away from the indie games room at Avcon. And so from then on, I'll be creating levels. So that's everything for this week. Thanks for watching.